Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. Parents of young people recovering from eating disorders might recognise the familiar feeling of just feeling anxious all the time, even when your child is working hard towards recovery and on the recovery trajectory. You still feel anxious. You don't stop feeling anxious for a heck of a long time, months, years, because you are so scared of the anorexia coming back. You've been to hell and back, but you have an absolute fear of your child going back there, back into the terrible days of the eating disorder. And it's not just a case of you really don't want them to have to suffer like that again. That is very true. Of course you don't, because you love your child to bits. You desperately want them to be well. But you also begin to wonder, could I as a parent go through that again? Could I handle it? My brain would just explode, I think. Would I be able to offer him the help he would so desperately need? The answer to that actually came in a way. I've just thought of it. I went to a conference for parents of young people with eating disorders, and it was Jill Todd from the Maudsley Hospital in London. She's one of the pioneers of the modern evidence-based treatment, which was originally developed at the Maudsley Hospital in London, family-based therapy. And she did a fantastic talk at this conference, and she also did a little workshop, one of those things where you have to get into groups. I mean, I usually hate that sort of thing, but this was quite good because it came up in the group. Would it be so terrible for everyone, apart from the obvious dangers and distress, for a relapse to happen? And by that she meant that you as a parent will have picked up so much information and so many tools and experiences from the first eating disorder illness, that if there is a relapse, you will have these tools. You'll be much better equipped to deal with it than you were first time round. I mean, it would still be absolutely awful if your child did relapse at any point, or go backwards, or go back there into that awful place of the high eating disorder, as I called it. But you would have these tools. It would be punishingly hard, and it wouldn't be great for anybody, let alone your own mental health, but it wouldn't be as bad as the first time round. Anyway, I'll stop rambling now, and I will read this blog post, which is from the 7th of June 2011, and it's called A Normal School Day ? As you know, Ben has been doing mornings only at school since October. Today is the last AS level exam day, and he has 2 exams, one in the morning and the other in the afternoon, which will mean him having to be in school all day. Not only will this mean quite a lot of free time between the end of the morning and the beginning of the afternoon exam, which would mean having to socialise, but it will also mean returning to school dinners, because at Ben's school pupils don't take packed lunches. Ben's had this tummy bug for the past week, although he's ploughed on with his eating regime admirably. Maybe it was a mix of anxiety about today and the bug, but he didn't sleep well last night and said he felt ill this morning. But it felt hugely different from a similar morning with the eating disorder. Apart from his tummy ache and lack of sleep, he seems much more like the normal Ben, who I've been treating in exactly the same way as I used to, without any special treatment to allow for or cope with anorexia behaviours, many of which have completely disappeared, fingers crossed. Yesterday, he went into school for a revision session and said he wasn't going to go if his gut was playing up. But I insisted that his gut ache wasn't a good enough reason not to go to something so important. So off he went. Ed, the eating disorder, simply wasn't there. It was just like a normal parent talking to a normal teenager. Sitting here, I feel echoes of the old anxiety creeping in from the days when Ben would be in a heck of a mood and make my life hell on his return from school and throughout the evening. Stress levels were off the scale. I also feel echoes of the worry that Ben will cut back at school dinners. In the bad old days, he'd make a beeline for the salad bar or soup, followed by fruit. On one occasion, he got that he couldn't handle being in the dining hall at all and freaked out, sprinting out of the building, out of the school, across the playing fields and worryingly towards the river. Thankfully, he was intercepted by a member of staff who brought him back to the buildings. And on many occasions he'd hide in the boys' toilets or somewhere in the grounds, texting me with frantic messages of the kind that makes your heart thud to a stop when your phone goes. Much worse was when he texted the landline, and it would call me with a robotic woman's voice, relaying the gruelling text message. It will be interesting to see how he handles today, but we haven't talked about it that much, or the dinners issue, as I know it's something that he needs to do by himself. If, in the hopefully very unlikely event, he calls or texts me today, then I will firmly refuse to pick him up or pacify the eating disorder. But, she says, tempting fate, I don't think he will. And that's the end of that post. So yes, there was this constant anxiety running beneath the surface that I had to pretend wasn't there, and that everything was normal, and I was fully supportive and everything, because it wouldn't have really been helpful to Ben had he known that I was feeling totally anxious and just primed for something awful to happen. I think it had kind of become a default mode inside my head. And if you're a parent yourself of a young person with an eating disorder, I think you'll know what I mean by this. Anyway, thank you for listening. You'll find a link below to my blog, and you'll also find a link to my website where you can download free PDFs of my blog, and also a link to Amazon where you can buy a copy of my book.